So hey, it's Dylan here with Karen. We just finished up a money mixer here with Real Real Profits. Karen won an awesome book. Karen, what's that book about?
Well, it's about Jim Clayton, who is a billionaire, very successful in multiple business, and he wrote a story about himself and his company.
So Karen was able to partake in a team building exercise here. We had Jim Clayton speak. But overall, what was your experience like today? We walked 2 properties.
It was awesome.
Then we had Jake up here interviewing Mr. Clayton. So tell us, what was that experience like? What were your 3 biggest takeaways?
Well, I think first, team is everything. You want to have a solid team members to help you with a lot of professional, legal, accounting, perspectives. You want to have the right people at the right place. I think you have to have the right mindset. You have to be a problem solver when all kinds of problems come into your way. And I think you just have to be positive and keep going. If you run into things that's just normal, and you just gotta think of what you can do to make it better and keep going.
And last question, how's today changed the way that you're looking at your business?
I think I learned something today that system processes are everything. So in my previous work experience, I deal with a lot of processes. But now it just makes me more aware that from early on, it's not just about the business itself. Having a good structure and the processes in place will, benefiting a long way. Yeah.
I love that. We just heard from Mr. Clayton saying that let the system and the process be the boss,
yes,
right? So
absolutely.
I thought that was a huge takeaway for me. I wrote that one down. So thanks for coming out, and we appreciate it.
Thank you, Dylan.
Yep.
So as many of you in the audience tonight know, we're in the thick of this. Multiple different businesses, growing, scaling, and I'm always looking to people that have done it before to shed some light, show me the way, and just offer insight. A few weeks ago, Jim and I had lunch, and he was just going into a few things that really set with me. I don't want to give it all away, but 100 stores was the stopping point, and there was something that changed and you stopped. So on your 100th store, I just want you to tell the story a little bit, how no one had a mobile home sales floor that went beyond 100. When you got to 100, you stopped. And then I wanted to just share with the audience what you worked on. And we'll circle back there.
Thanks, Jake. And a little background on that story. So I was in the used car business, got into the new car business, primarily import cars. One of the largest and first in the Southeast, and my brother and I were partners. We ran into trouble with a bank. You can get in trouble with banks. You have to watch out for banks. And the bank decided to get out of all the businesses I was in, and boat business and camper business, and they closed about 12 dealerships all the same day and bankrupted our company at 27 years old. I thought I was getting rich. I just got back from Europe and got all kind of awards from Volvo for outstanding performance. And my brother met me at the airport and says, "Jim, you better hurry to the office. We got a meeting downtown at the bank's office, and they closed us up." And so I decided that maybe I better go to law school and see what happened to me. Because my young attorneys couldn't handle it. I don't think anybody could. We just caught up in something that shouldn't have happened. They paid out 42 cents on the dollar, and then we paid every penny after that over 3 or 4 years, and we finally rebuilt a reputation. With the 2 best balance sheets in here, 27 years old, I couldn't finance a car with the 2 best people in here co-signing it, probably. And so it was a lot to overcome, but with the law degree and understanding a lot better about how things work, I could do that. And so what are we talking about now? We're talking about 100. And so the car business didn't even, my brother and me both then, after a couple of years, I made him a deal. I'd give him half there. I owned all the business when it went bankrupt. All of it. Big deal. And but I told him if he'd let me go to law school, and he'd work full time and I'd work all the time I had, which was a lot of time, that we'd rebuild the business. I'd give him half of it. And he went for it. My best friend today, had a wonderful 20-year partnership before we split the businesses up. But after getting out of law school in about a year, really didn't need both of us. And I'd had a mobile home at the lake, and I went to Elkhart, Indiana, and picked out some mobile homes and bought 3 of them and brought them down and opened them up, and boy, they really started selling. So within 2 or 3 years, we had a lot of them, a lot of manufactured housing going. And so the natural thing to do is, you know, if you got a plumbing truck and it starts doing real well, get 2. Yeah, you'd be lucky both of them if you make as much as you did in 1. That's the way it works for many, many people. When you start scaling, you know, with no processes and no systems, and then growth is really wonderful, but a lot has to be built up, you know, to support and hold up all that. So we got, we opened up the second lot and the third lot pretty fast, all around here close to Knoxville. And I don't think we ever sold any more on all 3 of them than we did with the big lot. We sold more manufactured homes than ever been sold any lot, for 700 a year for 5 years in a row out here on Clayton Highway in Knoxville. 700 homes a year in one sales center. That was back in the 60s. So we didn't need to open others. So you many times when you start expanding, you pay a price. I'm about to get to the point. Hang on. I'm almost there. So we started. We found that what was wrong. We researched and studied, and the people that we put into management either couldn't operate it at that scale, anything like we were doing, or maybe we didn't give them the tools. Maybe we didn't even give them delegate the responsibility to them. Anyway, it wasn't happening. And so we had to. So we found that cut the inventory down, make them smaller, and we found a way to make them work. And then we started scaling. And so we opened in towns 25, 50 miles all around here. Covered it with that TV show that I talked about a few minutes ago. Got up to 42 sales centers then after about 5 or 6 years after the recession in 74 to 77, 78, and so we're in the 70s. Then we're at 40, maybe it's the early 80s. We're at 42 sales centers, and somebody that had mentored me and that I had watched and helped me scale up got into trouble and bankrupted. Mobile home industries out of Tallahassee, Florida, and so they were for sale, pennies on the dollar, and they had 45 sales centers in states we hadn't even been in. And so you're going from near home to Tennessee and adjoining states with 40 sales centers, and we're going to 80, 90 sales centers overnight. And we tried to do that, but we did, but it was but we were scared to death then as we got those under control. In North Carolina, all the people were good. There's a regional manager there. In Texas, they were terrible, and we turned all of them. So we really worked like the devil for a couple of years in absorbing that acquisition. But then we got it working. But we were scared to go to 100, scared to death, because everybody that had the 5 or 6 mobile home industries that just went bankrupt, we bought them. And Connor Homes out of North Carolina, and Oakwood Homes out of North Carolina, which we later bought them. And they spread out across the country and got into 250, 300, 350 sales centers and couldn't make it. We started studying, why is it? And I'll try to shorten the story down to end it, because you have more questions.
No. This is important. I want everyone to hear this. Take your time, please.
And so when we identified the core issues involved there, Then it was people in training, and it always is, but it was systems and processes. And fortunately, my brother was a computer nerd to a fault. That he loved, he learned the code. We started with computers when memory was holes in a punch card. Maybe some of you, I see some heads nodding. You've never seen a punch card, right?
I know what a hole punch is.
So we did have an edge there. And as we studied it and analyzed it, we found that we could go past 100, and we breezed on them past, in just a tiny few years, into past 200 and got up to 380, something like that. Clayton Homes is operating now with about 350, 370 of the company-owned sales centers, and pretty soon we started a 20-year run that's had never been equaled on the New York Stock Exchange with public in 83.
This is great. The reason that I brought this up, and a lot of people in this room hear me talk about education times action equaling results. That's fine, and that gets you into this multifamily game a lot of the times. It's going to take educating yourself, understanding what you're doing, and then a lot of energy to go out there, find the deal, get it under contract. But after you own it, then that's when the real work starts. And I say this a lot of times, but that's true. And the reason I bring this up is because Jim was financing a deal for us back in 2015, and I was showing him my work ethic, because one of the best things I bring to the table is energy and enthusiasm. And so I was saying to him, hey, if the check needs to go to the bank and the manager's not there, I'll drive there, I'll grab it, I'll write the checks, I'll pay this guy, I'll mow the grass. And it was silly, and I call this the I'm a mentality. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do everything. I'm gonna get burnt out. I was saying this to you at Aubrey's, and Rick was there. You talked about another great team member in the house. We got Rick Gentry over there, best broker in Tennessee. Right. A lot of superstars amongst the crowd tonight that everyone doesn't know. So, you said, what are you doing? And I said, what do you mean? I'm working hard. I'm doing everything I can to make sure this stays afloat. And you said, you can't scale like that. And I was so proud.
Going to the bank didn't impress me.
But to me, it was always about, if you do everything, you have control over it. But that's not how it works.
There are times you have to do that.
In the beginning you do,
Yeah,
but
right.
the light bulb, and I thank you, because the light bulb went off in my head at that point. I downshifted, and then we started working on the business. I started immersing myself and educating about how do we get our people right? How do we come up with the right strategy? Where's the cash going to come from?
And the culture.
The culture is everything, and that's where we hire and fire on, right? That's where we hire and fire on. And where we were starting to get bogged down was the execution, because we have team members in the room. I'll pile on, say, we're going to do this, we're going to start doing this, we're going to do this, and then the funnel gets full, but then it's the pull-through and the execution that we're really working on now. So I wanted to make that point, and I really appreciate that. So thank you. Now, you touched on the New York Stock Exchange. You grew, breezed past 100 stores, 300 stores. How did it change for you managing the company from the early days versus being a publicly traded company?
But it was a little bit easier in some way, because there was no raising capital issues then. We had to raise a lot of capital to finance the sales, but that with our record and numbers, it worked out really well. That was the early days of securitized mortgages. We have all flavors of them now, but we didn't have many different flavors of them then. So we used that until that time, which was after Buffett had purchased us, so it was no problem. But but that was one of the motivators to sell to Buffett. But I had been, you see, Clayton Homes is a big handful of businesses in that we were a retailer, and then we decided we could sell more if we could finance them. And I could talk all day and tell you how we found that first $1 million to do our own financing. But then we said every retailers of any kind of widgets or anything, they tend to believe that if they could build if they could just build them and build them right, and design them right, then selling would be really easy, and people would just flock in and buy them. So retailers don't tend to trust, manufacturers too much. Well, I got afflicted with that too. If I could just build my own trailers, then they would really sell, and that'd like to kill me. And so I had a body shop. This is a good story. The little body shop and we enlarged it or moved to a larger one. And so that building was available. So we was going to build 10 by 40s to learn how to build them. And so we got one built and pulled it up to the door and put one right behind it. And we decided we'd get another one in this building behind that. So there's one ready to come out the door. And then there's one that the walls are just going up, no roof on it. And then there's one back there with just a floor, and we're starting to set some plumbing or something in it. So see, and that building is bursting at the seams. And so pretty soon we know we're going to have to start another, and we've got this first one done. And so we need to get it out and see if it'll sell. And my dad was up for a visit from West Tennessee, and I can see him walking around it now. Where he would eye the left side of it, and then he'd walk over to the right side of it, and finally he comes over and says, it's too wide. And so it wouldn't go out the door. So it took about a week to put a door in. So you can see our processes were not too good. And now, of course, for many decades now, Clayton Homes is, by far the best manufacturer of modular and manufactured homes. But that gives you an example of what my days and my time was like. But it ramps up. It occasionally may dip a little bit, but it gets easier as you scale, and the systems and the culture and the processes then are the boss. And that's what you work toward, is that our team agree. And you don't have to do all that. It's better if you don't do all of it. It's better if a lot of the ideas and the processes come from the team than if it all comes from us. But you agree. Again, our lives work only to the extent we keep our agreements. We agree that this is the way we're going to do them. That becomes a process then. Or you say, well, it doesn't work too well, and you change it and refine the process. But so my life, and a simple answer is, I should have been a lot shorter than just said.
No. We want to hear this. Go on.
Thank you. I should have just said, my life got more process driven. The company got more process driven, and I got to do more. I got to move on and start a mortgage company, start a factory, and then I was having a great conversation with somebody back here earlier. I saw manufactured home communities after the oil burst in Texas in the late 80s, and they were going for pennies on the dollar. Well, they had no occupancy. The occupancy is way down. You couldn't sell them, and if you could sell them, nobody would finance them. And we had access to capital, and so we bought 76 of them there in 9 or 10 years. And so when Buffett bought the company, he got one heck of a deal in those. So I looked at every one of those as we bought those. So I talked to some other people. My wonderful introduction said I was a pilot, and always looking for a place to fly. And so I looked at every one of those communities that we bought. A lot of them were in Texas, but they were in North Carolina, and Arizona, and lots of other places too.
People can't do business with you if they don't know you. So I applaud everyone in this room tonight. You're getting out there, you're networking, you're putting yourself out there, maybe uncomfortable for some of you.
Yeah, Maxim.
Jim wrote a book. It's about this thick, hardcover, Beauty, and that assisted you in the sale of Clayton Homes. You want to tell a little bit about that story?
So I want my kids to grandkids, great grandkids, and I want all of it. At that time, I had about 8,000 people working for Clayton Homes, and I want them to know where we came from. I want to know what it was like, and I want to tell my story. And so I started writing. Actually, I shut it down 3 times because something would happen. I'd get really busy, and it's just an unbelievable amount of time that it takes. And then finally in 2002, I just made a commitment in December that I'm going to have the book out in time for Thanksgiving. And then I found out that there's a 3-month lead time, but I still made it and got it out and sent it, and gave everybody in the company a book for Christmas, and a lot of friends and others who started. They really sold on Amazon too, but primarily I think to people related to the manufactured housing business. And one day a professor at UT came in my office, a friend of mine. We'd talked investing, and I'd spoken to his classes, and I'd given him a book right after it came out and signed it for him. And he goes over to the shelf and picks up 2 new books. I said, "What are you doing?" "I gave you a book, Professor." And he said, "Well, I'm going to take this one home. I don't want it home." "Well, what about the other one?" I said, "I'm going to take it to Warren." And so then I remember that every year he takes a group of students to Buffett Land, Omaha, and that all started because he wrote a Forbes magazine article. Buffett pinned him a note and said, "Professor, terrific article. I agree with you completely." And the professor wrote him back, "Thank you, Warren. I got a note from Warren Buffett," and they became pen pals. For 8 years, they'd been swapping notes 2-3 times a year. Every time the professor he'd do the thing, he'd tell Warren, be nice to him, and send it back. Warren Buffett's the real deal. He's just an unbelievable person. He's all the good you hear about him is real, really, really real. So where am I? So the Buffett pinned him an note one day and said, "It's time we meet. Come and bring a dozen of your students with you." Professor raised some money, took 20. And so they go in on Thursday morning and tour Buffett's businesses in the area, and have dinner with the staff, and then they meet Buffett on Friday morning in his office, spend the morning in the office. He takes them to lunch at Gore's restaurant that Buffett brags about on television, and then they take pictures in the afternoon and go home. So so the professor had been taking him a gift every year. So back to, "Professor, why you already got a book? Why you want that one?" "Well, I'm taking it to Warren." And he'd been taking Pat Summit, the great lady basketball coach, signed football. He'd taken everything that Manning had. He had Manning sign it. He'd taken that to Warren Buffett in prior years, and Coach Fulmer had taken a football sign to him. So this time I'm taking your book. And so I signed the book. Hey Warren, congratulations, what's up? And signed it. And so a couple of weeks later, the trip comes up, and the professor calls me on Monday and said, Monday morning, and said, "Hey, Buffett said he watched your company. You really gave Buffett the book?" "Yeah, it did." And so later that day, Buffett, they left on Friday, came home, and Buffett called on Monday. Then I'd gone to Colorado skiing, and so Buffett left a voicemail, and at the bottom of this is a link so you can get a free copy of the book, every picture, every word. It's a real clean, quick. It downloads in less than 30 seconds, and no viruses, I assure you. But you Control F, find and go to chapter 21, or just search for Buffett, and you'll see the message that Buffett left for me. I've memorized it. Hi Jim, this is Warren Buffett. I read your book over the weekend. You did a good job on it. Thanks for, congratulations on taking the company to the top of the industry. I was just checking on the manufactured housing industry, and I'll call back later. And so I forwarded it to my son. People say, you wouldn't return a call to Warren Buffett? Well, I'd been retired for a year and a half. I was still chief legal officer, for the non-executive chief legal officer. That means I didn't have office. And I was non-executive chairman, New York Stock Exchange Company, and doing well. And my son was running it. And so here we are with, where'd I get to? I'm trying to...
just go into the sale of the company, yeah.
Yeah, so Buffett returned the call. My son returned the call to Buffett, and they made a tentative deal that week, and this was '03. And so, Jim, you're a visionary, and you knew the recession was coming in '08. I wish, but it was. But we had seen some signs that the securitized lending, that some of the mortgages for manufactured homes and others issued by Green Tree and a lot of other people were going not performing near as well. We saw some trends. If you got real technical, the last tranches of a securitization, are priced high because everybody else gets paid first. First investors get their money back first, and really complicated. And there were some not getting even their principal back in the last tranches, and so we were having to pay a higher rate for those last non-A grade securities, non-investment grade securities. You have to pay a higher rate, of course, for that part of a mortgage. I shouldn't get into that. Some of you know about that, but most of us don't. But it was my son wanted to do it, and I didn't mind. After I'm 65 years old then, and I don't. Warren Buffett, okay, good deal. And it was done. No one met. No accountant, no lawyer, no investment banker, no Clayton met above it. No one met, and a $2 billion deal was done. And how could that be? And Buffett bought Clayton homes the way our great grandfathers would have bought or sold a coon dog or a mule or a calf or something. Handshake. The deal was done like that. Buffett is just, well, he doesn't negotiate. We'd heard that. We tried it. But it turned out really well. The community said, oh no, we're not going to have all the community support that Clayton Homes has given us, and our team, some of our team members. But Buffett came, 4 weeks later, and spoke to the community, spoke to our people, and assured them that he wouldn't have bought it if Kevin Clayton hadn't made 2 or 3 promises. One, he would stay. Number 2, his top people would stay, and they did. It's worked out great. Now there was there were assets. The sales were about $4 billion then, and now they're $12 billion a year.
Well done. So I came from very humble beginnings. I grew up on a dirt road, like yourself. and you talked about your son taking over the company. You have some very well-to-do people in the room. Many of them have children. One of the things that scares me is my kids are growing up in an environment where it may seem easy, and I want them to have a blue-collar work ethic like I developed. How have you worked with your kids to make sure your son's the CEO of a fantastic company? How did you get to that point? Because I think many of us in the room look to our children and want to see them have that same kind of success and carry the legacy. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Flynn, do you want to take this question? What a question, Jake. What a question. You could ask, I have 10 grandkids. Flint is the oldest. They're all educated, and I'm really proud of them, but they have different values and different visions for how they want to live their life. That's true even in my children also. But I will tell you that I'll be quite candid and try to be brief, but the 10 grandkids now, we're having our own retreat, and we don't let my kids come. Annually, a full week-long trip. And we've had 2, and the third one is scheduled for January. This time we're doing a cruise. If I tell you this is hard, and almost anything you dream up will be a mistake, and that you just, if you want to raise children in the business, as I did, or you want to just, if you want the family, I know you do, like I did, you want the family to be close and to help each other and advise each other and visit with each other and all those things. And it just doesn't happen nowadays. Sure, there's exceptions, but it doesn't happen. And so get your expectations realistic. But you just got to, there's books to read, and go to Amazon and get Family Wealth and buy that book for starters. It's not a long book, and it will really give you some great insight into all the things that we normally do wrong. And so if you would be impressed if I told you all that I did. I provided trust funds that educated all my kids and all my grandkids. Nod your head that I paid for all the college, MBA and bachelor's and law school. I did, and all the kids. You could say thank you.
Thank you.
He has many times. So I did a lot of things right. My brother, he had 3 children, and I had 4. And my brother programmed his to do automobiles, and they do. So it's a family automobile dealership with now about 8 dealerships, including Mercedes down in Columbus, Georgia. Very successful dealership that his son Mark runs, just a little bit younger than Flynn. But you can't get enough training on this. I did not program my kids to come into the business. I thought that my oldest son Jimmy, would be the leader in the family, the one that would want to lead all through until 15, 16, 18 years old. And I didn't think that Kevin was too fun and that he would be a serious business leader. And I had them to go do internships at other places and get other experience and not shoehorn them into our business. I see people that encourage and invite their children to be in their business, and it works out great. But I chose not to do that, but to leave the door open, but have them look at the other things, get all the education they needed. And so a whole lot has worked out really great for me, but I would have, a lot didn't work out as I planned for it to. And whatever it takes to make an entrepreneur is not necessarily what it takes to make a great leader of a large and growing family. So don't take that for granted, and read and learn and study what the best of people do. There's so many ways to do it, you know. Some ground, get the commonality in religion. Some people do it through their common business. Some families are scattered. Some families all live in one little area. But all of this is changing and evolving so fast. It's not like it was for our grandparents at all. You know that.
So putting the family before the business, and if they're willing to come in the door, you welcome them with open arms. Is that fair?
That is an excellent summary, Jay. So I produced a television show for 16 years and built the company, the car companies and the manufactured housing companies around us. Tell you a short little story. I was taping a commercial where I would say, "Hi folks, I'm Jim Clayton, got the finest cars out here on Clinton Highway, take low down payments, you know, we work out financing so that the payments are real low. You'll find, you know, the car, a typical commercial." And one day I got to the TV station and the camera was broken. For those of you who know, the Cass Walker TV show had just taped earlier and they had gone and you know, the camera wasn't working. And I have two of my salespeople with me that were going to help out on the commercial. You know, I would add into the commercial, here's two of my finest salesmen, people you really enjoy doing business with. Come out here on Clinton Highway and buy yourself a good car. And see Clayton Homes, or Clayton Motors on the Clinton Highway. Well, we were sitting there bored to death. Thought they'd never get that camera fixed. This was back in the early 60s. And one of the guys said, Cass Walker's guys left the guitar. Jim, why don't you pick this cue? So I picked it up and strummed, you know, some old Johnny Cash song or something. I hear the train coming, rolling. I did something like that. And then I was just sitting there twiddling, and all of a sudden, and I looked at it in my commercial and I said, "We've got a great deal, sale on this weekend, folks, and come on out here on Clinton Highway and see Jim Clayton on the Clinton Highway." And I just strung, "See Jim Clayton on the Clinton Highway." And one of my salespeople said, "I double dog dare you to do it." And so when the camera was fixed a few minutes later, then they picked it up and I said, and so I did. "See Jim Clayton on the Clinton Highway." So I ended the commercial like that, and that became the brand. I did that for years and years, but then I started a radio show and then started a TV show. And this was a time when there was only 2 stations in town, and you know, if you buy a spot, most everybody is going to see you. So the music and the TV show really became a part of my life there for all those years, and I was afraid to stop it. And finally, I decided I'd do a test, and I opened manufactured home sales centers in North Carolina and West Tennessee and places, and I didn't take the TV show with it. I didn't tell you we copied the show and ran it in Nashville and Jackson, Tennessee, and Nashville and Greenville and Lexington, Louisville, all those places too, and it was costing more money. So there's a little marketing lesson for you, I guess, in there somewhere. I hope there's something in there. But I was able to quit it because I got, you know, sort of, I love what you do. I love what I do and have done all these years. It's really a thrill to be here. And thank you so much for inviting me, Jake, and thanks for trusting me with your loan on your first apartment building. And I've never done a more pleasant transaction. Complicated wrinkles in it here and there, and working with Jake was just unbelievable. Now I told him to play the guitar, and you'll introduce Bill Thomas around everybody or somebody.
The number one insurance man in all of Tennessee is sitting in the room tonight. Maybe most people don't know. The only guy, Bill, stand up please, if you don't mind. Come on now. Everybody, Bill Thomas.
Carter, stand up. Your grandson. Bill and I brought our grandsons, but it's just unbelievable to have the kind of service that you get from TIS Insurance and Bill.
Can we hear a jingle for TIS?
So somebody said I played the guitar. I really don't very much anymore, but occasionally. I learned if I make a speech, you get the opportunity to make a speech, then that if they won't sing along, then I know they're probably not going to listen to the speech. And so I test. So here's your test. And now this can take a long time, and it can really be boring and wear you out. Or we can get this thing over with really quick. Here's the way it works. So if you sing along, and so we can do Johnny Cash or Merle Haggard or any old country song. Let's do, who should we do, Michelle?
Johnny Cash.
Let's do Country Road.
Country Road, yeah.
Who did Country Road, Michelle?
Country Road.
Yeah, Country Road.
Yeah. So everybody sing. All you have to do is just sing, and then we'll get on with the program. That's simple. Or I can stay here for a long time. It's totally your choice. So we're gonna learn it one line at a time, real quick. So, country road. Now you all sing that. Country road. Hey, we're off to a good start. Okay. Take me home. Take me home. One more time. Take me home. Now sing this one with me. To the place. To the place. One more time. To the place I belong. I belong. West Virginia. West Virginia. Mountain Mama. Mountain Mama. Take me home. Country road. Now let's do it. Country road. Take me home to the place. To the place I belong. I belong. West Virginia. Mountain Mama. Mountain Mama. Take me home. Take me home. Country road. Now the verse. Now don't you all utter a sound. I like them. Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountain, Shenandoah River. Life is old there, older than the trees, younger than the mountains, blowing like a breeze. Now, country road, now, take me home to the place, to the place I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take
Hey,